Hello, and thank you so much for joining me today for this thought from the Bible, another opportunity to dig into this incredible book together. And at the moment, if you've been watching any videos recently, you'll know that we've been exploring the book of 2 Kings, looking specifically at the life of the prophet Elisha. And I've just so enjoyed seeing the different stories, the different individual elements that made up this guy's life, and what we've been able to learn about him, his amazing humility, his absolute belief in the awesome power of God to act on his behalf and on the behalf of the people around him. But I also love what these stories have shown us about the nature of God and different facets of his character. There is just so much to unravel in this amazing book, the Bible. And so we're going to continue with that today, looking at the next story in the life of Elisha. Now, I wonder if you've ever had one of those moments where something has gone catastrophically wrong and you feel like sick to your stomach about it. Maybe it was a mistake, something that was brought about because of you. Maybe it was a circumstance beyond your control. But whatever it is, something happened to completely turn your day or your week or your month or your year around and left you feeling completely helpless. And today's story from the life of Elisha is kind of in that vein. See, actually, things were going fairly well for the company of prophets in Israel at this time. It seems like Elisha's ministry is having a bit of an impact in that nation. We know this because this particular group has grown so much that the building that they were using to meet in is no longer big enough. The company of prophets said to Elisha, "Look, the place where we meet with you is too small for us. Let us go to the Jordan where each of us can get a pole and let us build a place there for us to meet." All right then, Elisha says, off you go. But one of them says, well, why don't you come along with us, Elisha? It'd be a real encouragement to the guys, if the prophet is there with us as we're doing this work. And so Elisha, he travels along with the company of prophets, and they get to the river Jordan, and that's when it happened. This stomach-sinking moment, something catastrophic for one particular person. They went to the Jordan and began to cut down trees. As one of them was cutting down a tree, the iron axe head fell into the water. "Oh no, my lord," he cried out. It was borrowed. Oh, that sinking feeling. You can kind of sense this guy's horror and his panic from this account, just if nothing else from the multiple exclamation marks that I used in that one statement of his. And it's easy to read this story and think, yeah, okay, fine, not a great situation, but just pop down to his local hardware store, right, and buy another one. Well, we might be able to do that today, but things didn't quite work like that at the time. See, iron was expensive. And it's interesting that the Bible specifically mentions not just that it was an axe head, but that it was an iron axe head. This was something valuable. Iron was available in the nation at the time, but it was certainly not common enough to be cheap. And this particular man from the company of prophets was in a position where he could not afford to buy one. That's why he had to borrow one in the first place. It would have been bad enough to have lost his own iron axe head, but to lose somebody else's, that was awful. And not only because he would have to go and explain to that person, hey, you know that really valuable tool that you lent me? Yeah, I kind of lost it. Not only that, but this man would be liable for that debt. And if he did not have the money to pay the person who loaned the axe to him back, then there was a chance that he would have to work off his debt as a bondservant, essentially as a slave, until that debt was paid. Now, in the grand scheme of the Bible, in huge events involving nations, involving all of the people in the world, involving God himself, this story seems like a very, very small thing. But it was not small for that guy. It was significant. And isn't it so wonderful to know that God sees the things that are significant to us, even if they seem small to the rest of the people in the world? So the man of God, Elisha, asked, where did it fall? And when he showed him the place, Elisha cut a stick and threw it there and made the iron float. Lift it out, he said. Then the man reached out his hand and took it. Now, just stop there a moment and consider this miracle. This axe head was made of solid iron, and it fell into the muddy waters of the river Jordan. It couldn't be seen. They probably only had a vague idea of where it was in that water. It was impossible to fish out. We don't hear that Elisha got a stick and kind of used it to like fish around and somehow flick that iron axe head out of the water. We hear that it floated. Now, you don't need to know that much about physics to know that iron does not float. That a stick from a tree is not magnetic. It would not have attracted the axe head. This is an absolutely insane miracle. It's not something ordinary. It's not like Elisha prayed and a fish swam along and grabbed it in its mouth and brought it to the surface. It's not the multiplication of something that was already there. This is a literal, physics-defying moment, and it's all for the benefit of one individual person. God defied the laws of nature that he himself had written in order to help one man out of one sticky situation. Isn't that incredible? This story doesn't show us any reaction from the prophets or from Elisha. It just ends right there. But I can imagine how that man must have felt. I can imagine how he must have felt for the rest of his life. The trust that he would have put in God after that moment. Not only would he have known firsthand and personally that God is all-powerful and almighty and incredible, but also that he cares about the seemingly tiny things going on in the life of those who follow after him. And what does that teach us about God today? He is the same God. His power is the same. His might is the same. His compassion and his love for his people is the same. And today he sees you. He sees the situations in your life. He sees what's happening. He sees what's important to you, even if nobody else around you thinks that that thing is important. He is a God who would bend the laws of physics to return a borrowed axe. What could he do in your life? I wonder how often we put limits on God in our heads, or perhaps assume that like this kind of level of miracle, that would only happen to other people. You know, maybe we'd have expected that axe head to float if it had been Elisha's. The prophet, the man of God who was trying to bring a wayward nation back to the Lord. But would we have expected it for this anonymous man from the company of prophets? Would we expect it for ourselves? This man, we don't know anything about him. We don't even know his name. But I can assure you that God knew his name. God saw him as infinitely valuable, worth saving, worth stepping in to do something amazing for. What a reassurance that is for us today. And I just want to finish by reading a couple of verses from Matthew chapter 10, verses 29 and 30. It says, "Are not 2 sparrows sold for a penny? Yet not one of them will fall to the ground outside your Father's care. And even the very hairs of your head are all numbered. So don't be afraid. You are worth more than many sparrows." No matter what situation you may be facing today, no matter how your stomach may have that horrible sinking feeling about what is happening in this day right now or in any days to come, God is with you. God cares for you. He loves you. He sees that situation. And he is the God who is able and willing to step in to help an individual. That is mind-blowing. What an amazing, wonderful God we serve. And just like that man from the company of prophets, it's okay for us to cry out, "Oh no, this situation has happened and it's hard and I don't know what to do. But Lord, I put it in your hands and I trust in you. And I know that you can do amazing things to help me through." Thank you so much for joining me for that thought from the Bible. I'll be back on Wednesday next week as we continue digging into the life of Elisha, what we can learn from him, from the people around him, and what we can learn about God from these stories in 2 Kings. So I will see you on Wednesday.